Today's one of those updates that hits every Oilers fan right in the chest. There's a comeback story, a roster debate that's already sparking arguments all over Edmonton, an injury scare that won't leave anyone calm, and of course, that stubborn dream we refuse to let die. We've got a player finding his game again in Edmonton, an ex-Oiler lighting it up somewhere else, and a medical report that could shift the whole season. The real question is whether the front office is actually building a cup contender or playing with fire in a window that doesn't forgive mistakes. You won't believe what we've got today. So grab a seat, hit that like button, and let's get straight to it. Curtis Lazar is the kind of player who, if you only look at raw numbers, you might wonder why he's so respected in the room. Back in his Oil Kings days, he was a star here, lifted a junior trophy in this city, and looked destined to become a real offensive force in the NHL. But this league doesn't hand out anything for free. Instead of putting up big point totals, he got hit with injuries, bounced around, dipped in and out of the AHL, and became almost a textbook case of how cruel the jump from junior to pro can be. And that's exactly why his story with the Oilers in 2025 hits so hard. Because instead of getting stuck on the fact he didn't turn into that 50-point guy people once projected, Lazar reinvented himself. He built a new identity as the ideal bottom six center. Right-handed, defensively reliable, face-off specialist, penalty killer, energy guy, details guy. The kind of player who slips past the box score, but shows up where coaches actually win games. He talked openly about it. He could complain about not being in the top six or running the power play, but he chose to flip the script and turn the lack of spotlight into fuel. That's the mindset of a veteran who wants to stay in the league, wants to help, and understands what it takes to win. And that brings us to right now. His contract is simple, 1 year. A clear project bet after a rough season with a serious knee injury. Limited games and numbers below his own expectations. His start in Edmonton wasn't smooth. In and out of the lineup, banged up, minutes all over the place, nothing guaranteed. But when he finally got a stretch of consistent action, he did exactly what he promised. Scored a beauty against the Jets, jumped into the slot, finished it calm as ever. But even more important than that goal, his recent 5-on-5 numbers show the Oilers creating more high-danger looks with him on the ice than they're giving up. That's not random. That's positioning, defensive reads, puck battles, clean draws, steady PK work. For a team dreaming of a Stanley Cup that needs reliable depth behind the stars, a guy like Lazar is the sort of detail that wins tight playoff games, kills a massive penalty, or wins a defensive zone draw with 30 seconds left. Fans sometimes underestimate players like this because they're not in the highlight reels every night. But if Edmonton is going to lift the cup, it's exactly these resilient, self-aware, no-ego pieces that fill out a championship roster. And the best part is he wants to win here, in the same city where he already lifted a trophy as a junior. For any Oilers fan, that's more than a story. It's a reason to believe this chapter isn't anywhere near finished. And while we're feeling good about Lazar finding his groove again, there's a storyline tearing the fan base right down the middle. The Troy Stecher situation. Because you can't ignore it. Watching a defenseman who slipped out of Edmonton almost unnoticed, passed through waivers, suddenly getting big minutes in Toronto, and playing rock-solid hockey. Well, that'll put anyone on edge. The painful question is whether the Oilers completely misread this asset, or whether this is one of those decisions that looks worse from a distance than it did in the moment. Let's slow it down, because this digs into something bigger than just Stecher's name. Right-shot defensemen in the NHL are pure gold. Centers, goalies, and right-shot D are the scarcity trio. And when you've got a dependable one who's played meaningful minutes, kills penalties, blocks shots, and doesn't shy away from the heavy lifting, the instinct is to hold tight. But at the same time, Stecher has never been perfect. He's undersized for the position, doesn't bring elite defense, and has bounced around enough teams to show he's not an unquestioned pillar. Valuable, yes, but with a clear ceiling. That's where roster management and risk tolerance come in. Could the Oilers have squeezed out a late pick by forcing a trade? Maybe. But it's also possible the league wasn't offering anything, and the internal read was simple. If he clears waivers, at least you keep your depth. Then came the twist. In Toronto, with key right-shot defenders injured, Stecker landed in the perfect ecosystem for his style. A team starving for a steady, simple, right-shot D who can handle heavy minutes and embrace the chaos. Result: over 22 minutes in several games, leading TY on some nights and lining up with the Leafs' run of strong performances. That hurts for Oilers fans because it feels like the classic script where a player levels up only after leaving Edmonton. The truth is it's a mix. Different system, different partners, different pressure, and a player playing with the urgency of someone whose career is on the edge. That kind of desperation sometimes unlocks things you haven't seen before. On the Oilers' side, the decision wasn't made in a vacuum. Stecker was fighting for space with Ty Emberson and Alec Regula, two right shots with youth, upside and cost control, who could become contributors for years if they develop properly. The coaching staff knows Emberson well, trusts his progression, and Regula's size and tools always keep coaches curious. When you're in a season where you need to win now but can't abandon the future, it's natural to bet that two young defenders with room to grow might offer more long-term value than a veteran whose ceiling is already known. It stings because Stecker is shining right now. But if Emberson or Regula take a real step, that sting fades fast. In the end, this whole thing says a lot about the tightrope the Oilers front office is walking, balancing stability with opportunity, present needs with future returns. Criticism is fair. That's what fans do. But there's also logic in the gamble. And these are exactly the kinds of choices that determine whether this core finally lifts the Stanley Cup or ends up remembered as the group that always fell just short. Now, while we process that whole Stecker saga, there's another factor that could redefine this season's ceiling: the medical room. Because let's be honest, this team healthy is terrifying, but the injury list is creeping long enough to make the whole fan base nervous. And it's not just the number of players, it's the type of players and the timing. Some are close, some have timelines moving around, and some situations are straight-up mysteries that make you think something's being kept tight. Let's start with the good news, because Oilers fans deserve a breath. Noah Philp is getting close. He's back skating, looking upbeat, and that's massive for a roster needing trustworthy bottom 6 minutes. The realistic return looks like the Leafs game on Saturday, with the staff taking a careful approach to avoid throwing him back during a messy back-to-back scenario. That matters because Philp is exactly the type of piece that stabilizes depth lines. Strong body, smart play, and the ability to take tough minutes off the stars. Slot him into a lineup that's already finding chemistry, and it feels like adding a new piece without breaking anything. After that bright spot comes the real concern. Jake Wallman's situation has shifted from a small worry to a big question mark. Early talk had him out for about a week. Now the tone has changed out this week and unlikely next week, with that vague sense of it taking longer. Once talk of a bone bruise started floating around, everything made more sense and got more stressful at the same time. Those injuries are nasty. You can skate, you can think you're close, but pain and full recovery are different beasts. For a defenseman like Wallman who relies on mobility, edges, and trust in his explosiveness, even small pain becomes a threat to his game or, worse, a risk of making it worse. And then there are the two offensive pieces who could totally change the attack when they return: Jack Roslovic and Kasperi Kapanen. Right now, their timelines both hover around Christmas, no firm date, which is both encouraging and annoying. Encouraging because it doesn't sound long-term. Annoying because uncertainty makes line planning and cap shuffling messy. But if the Oilers hit the new year with both returning and the current group still rolling, this offense could become overwhelming. Both guys can slide between middle six and top six when they're hot, bringing speed, transition play, and secondary threat, something Edmonton has lacked when the Stars get smothered in heavy series. There's also Connor Clattenburg, about a week away from skating again after a scary high stick that temporarily affected his vision. Those incidents shake a player's confidence, but if he can find rhythm again, he becomes one more young piece pushing the group forward. And that's the surprising part of this stretch. Even with all these injuries, the Oilers are building real chemistry with the current roster. Young players like Matt Savoy and Alec Regula are taking advantage of the opportunity, getting minutes, making mistakes, and showing why the organization believes in them. Sometimes the best thing for a young player is a forced runway created by necessity. The real challenge and the real opportunity comes when this whole injured group starts returning. The coaching staff will have tough decisions to make. Who loses their spot? Who earned the right to stay? Which lines are too hot to touch? If the Oilers can survive this turbulent stretch, keep the team competitive, and use the injuries as a development incubator, they could come out the other side deeper, more adaptable and better built for a playoff run. Because championship teams aren't the ones that never get hurt. They're the ones that turn chaos into opportunity and come back even more dangerous when everyone's ready. So today we got the full package that defines what it means to cheer for the Oilers. Lazar grinding his way back and lifting the room. The Stecker debate pushing the front office right into the spotlight. And an injury report that scares you and gives you hope at the same time. After all that, seriously, does this roster look like a cup-winning group to you, or are they still missing the courage to make that final push? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit subscribe. Share this with Oilers fans. And let's ride this thing all the way to the Stanley.